The Royal Guard's daring mission. Captain Sarah Chen stood at attention in the gleaming corridors of the Terran Imperial Palace, her ceremonial armor reflecting the soft blue glow of the energy shields that protected humanity's most sacred halls. The news had just reached the Royal Guard barracks like a thunderbolt splitting the morning sky. Queen Elizabeth IV, beloved ruler of the Terran Empire and the first human monarch to unite 3 solar systems under one crown, had passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 147. But this was not just any death. This was the passing of the woman who had led humanity through the Great Galactic War against the Zephyrian Confederation, who had negotiated the historic peace treaty with the crystalline beings of Andromeda, and who had worn the crown of stars that contained technology beyond human understanding. The crown itself was a gift from an ancient alien civilization, one that had vanished eons before humans had even discovered fire. Sarah's communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Commander Williams. Her heart sank as she read the encrypted text. The Queen's daughter, Princess Camilla, had taken the crown without authorization and retreated to her private residence on the moon of Titan. This was not just theft. This was treason of the highest order, and it threatened to plunge the entire Terran Empire into chaos. The crown of stars was more than just a symbol of royal authority. According to the ancient alien texts that came with it, the crown contained quantum processors that could interface directly with the consciousness of its wearer, granting them access to vast databases of knowledge and the ability to communicate instantaneously across galactic distances. The crown had been instrumental in Queen Elizabeth's ability to coordinate military campaigns spanning multiple star systems and to negotiate with alien species whose languages had no human equivalent. Princess Camilla, however, was not next in line for the throne. That honor belonged to her younger brother, Prince Marcus, who had spent the last decade serving as a diplomat in the outer colonies and had proven himself worthy of the crown's power through years of dedicated service. Camilla had always resented this arrangement, viewing herself as the rightful heir due to her elder status, despite the Terran Constitution clearly stating that succession was based on merit and the approval of the Imperial Senate, not birth order. Sarah received her orders directly from the Emergency Council that had convened within hours of the Queen's death. She was to lead a small team of elite royal guards to Titan, infiltrate Camilla's heavily fortified residence, and retrieve the crown of stars before she could use its power to declare herself empress. The mission was classified at the highest level, known only to a handful of individuals in the entire empire. The journey to Titan would take 18 hours aboard the fastest stealth ship in the royal fleet. Sarah assembled her team carefully, choosing 5 of the most skilled and trustworthy guards in the entire corps. There was Lieutenant Rodriguez, a former Special Forces operative who could slip through security systems like a ghost. Sergeant Thompson, a combat engineer who could breach any fortification. Corporal Kim, a cyber warfare specialist who could hack alien technology. Private Jackson, a sniper whose accuracy was legendary even among the Royal Guard. And Private O'Brien, a medic and explosives expert whose steady hands had saved countless lives in the field. As their ship, the Shadow of Earth, slipped away from the palace's docking bay under cover of darkness, Sarah briefed her team on the layout of Camilla's residence. The princess had chosen her retreat well. The compound sat atop a crystalline cliff overlooking Titan's methane seas, surrounded by a maze of defensive systems that included plasma cannons, force field generators, and automated sentry drones. The residence itself was a marvel of human engineering, built into the living rock of the cliff face and powered by a fusion reactor buried deep beneath the surface. Intelligence reports suggested that Camilla had approximately 50 private guards at her disposal, mercenaries and former military personnel who were loyal to her personally rather than to the crown. These were not palace guards bound by honor and tradition, but hardened fighters who would kill without hesitation to protect their employer. Sarah knew that a direct assault would be suicide, even for the elite royal guard. The plan they developed during the journey was complex and dangerous. They would approach Titan from the dark side of the moon, using the shadow of Earth's advanced cloaking systems to avoid detection by orbital sensors. A small reconnaissance drone would be deployed to map the compound's defenses and identify the location of the Crown within the residence. Sarah and her team would then drop from orbit in stealth pods, landing in the methane swamps several kilometers from the compound. From there, they would have to cross treacherous terrain while avoiding automated patrols and surveillance systems. The environment itself was hostile to human life. Titan's atmosphere was thick with nitrogen and methane, requiring sealed suits and breathing apparatus. The temperature hovered at negative 179 degrees Celsius, cold enough to freeze exposed flesh in seconds. The gravity was only 14% of Earth normal, which would require careful adjustment of their movement patterns to avoid detection. Lieutenant Rodriguez had identified a possible entry point through the compound's waste processing system, a network of tunnels that connected to Titan's underground geothermal vents. The tunnels were too narrow for automated defenses, but large enough for a human in a combat suit to crawl through. Once inside, they would have to locate the Crown, which intelligence suggested was being kept in Camilla's private study on the highest level of the residence. The extraction would be the most dangerous part of the mission. With the Crown in hand, they would have only minutes before Camilla's guards discovered the theft. Their escape route led through the residence's main atrium, where they would have to rappel down the cliff face while under fire from the compound's defensive systems. A backup team in the shadow of Earth would provide covering fire from orbit, but the window of opportunity would be narrow. As Titan grew larger in their view screen, its orange-brown atmosphere swirling with methane storms, Sarah felt the familiar mixture of fear and excitement that preceded every dangerous mission. The fate of the Terran Empire rested on their shoulders. If they failed, Camilla might succeed in usurping the throne, potentially leading humanity into a civil war that could destroy everything their civilization had built among the stars. The crown of stars was not just a symbol or even a tool of power. According to the ancient alien archives, it was one of 12 such crowns created by a race known only as the Architects, beings who had transcended physical existence millions of years ago. The crowns were designed to guide younger civilizations toward a higher state of consciousness, but they could also be used as weapons of unimaginable destruction. In the wrong hands, the Crown of Stars could turn the Terran Empire's own defense systems against its people or open dimensional gateways that could unleash horrors from other realities. Sarah checked her equipment one final time as their ship entered Titan's upper atmosphere. Her pulse rifle was loaded with non-lethal stun rounds, as their orders were to avoid killing Terran citizens if possible. Her armor's life support systems were functioning perfectly, and her helmet's heads-up display showed green lights across all critical systems. The gravity boots that would allow her to navigate Titan's low-gravity environment were calibrated and ready. The Shadow of Earth's captain, a grizzled veteran named Morrison, appeared on the bridge's main screen. "We're approaching the drop zone, Captain Chen. Long-range sensors show normal activity at the compound, but there are some unusual energy readings coming from the residence's upper levels. It's possible the princess is already experimenting with the Crown's power." Sarah nodded grimly. If Camilla had begun to interface with the Crown, she might already be accessing the alien knowledge contained within it. The princess was brilliant, but unstable, driven by ambition and a deep resentment toward the imperial system that had passed her over for the throne. In her hands, the Crown's power could be used to rewrite reality itself, according to her twisted vision of human destiny. The final approach to the drop zone was harrowing. Titan's atmospheric storms played havoc with their ship's sensors, and more than once they had to adjust course to avoid methane lightning that could fry their systems. The compound's orbital defenses remained silent, suggesting that their stealth systems were working, but Sarah knew that could change in an instant. As the shadow of Earth's cargo bay opened to reveal the alien landscape of Titan far below, Sarah took a deep breath of recycled air and stepped toward the edge. Her team formed up behind her, their faces hidden behind the dark visors of their helmets, but their determination visible in every line of their bodies. They were the best of humanity's best, trained from childhood to protect the crown and everything it represented. The drop pods were sleek, teardrop-shaped vessels designed for stealth insertion. Each pod could carry one person and their equipment using a combination of heat-dampening materials and electromagnetic shielding to avoid detection during atmospheric entry. Sarah climbed into her pod and felt the familiar sensation of the acceleration couch molding itself to her body. The countdown to deployment began, and Sarah closed her eyes briefly, thinking of the Queen who had given her life in service to humanity. Elizabeth IV had been more than a monarch. She had been a symbol of hope in a galaxy full of dangers, a reminder that humans could achieve greatness when they worked together toward a common goal. Now it was up to Sarah and her team to ensure that legacy continued. The drop pods launched in sequence, falling through Titan's thick atmosphere like meteors of justice. As she plummeted toward the moon's surface, Sarah opened her eyes and watched the compound grow larger in her visual display. Somewhere within those walls, a princess had betrayed everything her mother had stood for. But the royal guard would not let that betrayal stand. They would retrieve the crown, preserve the succession, and protect the empire that had become humanity's greatest achievement among the stars. The infiltration. The drop pods struck Titan's surface with barely a whisper, their impact dampeners absorbing the shock as they buried themselves in the frozen methane mud of the swamplands. Sarah's pod cracked open like an egg, releasing her into the alien environment that had become her battlefield. The methane mist swirled around her like ghostly fingers, and the distant glow of the compound's lights created an eerie aurora against Titan's perpetually overcast sky. Her team emerged from their own pods within seconds, their movements precise and coordinated despite the disorienting effects of the low gravity. Lieutenant Rodriguez immediately began setting up a portable communications array, while Sergeant Thompson deployed sensor drones to scout their immediate surroundings. The landscape around them was both beautiful and terrifying, with towering crystalline formations jutting from lakes of liquid methane that reflected the pale light of distant Saturn. Sarah activated her helmet's tactical display and watched as her team's positions appeared as blue dots on her map. The compound lay 8 kilometers to the northeast, its defensive perimeter clearly visible as a series of red zones on her scanner. Between them and their target stretched a maze of methane rivers, cryovolcanic vents, and unstable ice formations that could collapse without warning. The first challenge came almost immediately. Corporal Kim's scanner detected a patrol of automated drones moving through the area, their search pattern indicating they were looking for exactly the kind of unauthorized landing Sarah's team had just made. The drones were sleek, predatory-looking machines armed with plasma cannons and equipped with sensors capable of detecting human heat signatures even through the best stealth suits. Rodriguez signaled for the team to take cover behind a ridge of ammonia ice. The drones passed overhead like mechanical vultures, their searchlights cutting through the methane fog in precise geometric patterns. Sarah held her breath as one of the beams passed within meters of Private Jackson's position, but the sniper remained perfectly still until the patrol moved on toward the southern swamps. Once the immediate danger had passed, the team began their approach to the compound. The journey required them to cross terrain that would have challenged even experienced mountaineers on Earth. The low gravity made every step unpredictable, and the methane ice was slippery enough that a single misstep could send them sliding into one of the deep crevasses that crisscrossed the landscape. Sergeant Thompson proved invaluable as they navigated the treacherous route. His engineering background allowed him to assess the stability of ice bridges and identify safe crossing points over the methane rivers. More than once, he had to use shaped charges to clear blocked passages or create new paths when their original route proved impassable. The compound grew larger as they approached, and Sarah could see that intelligence reports had understated its defenses. The main structure rose from the cliff like a metallic flower, its multiple levels connected by enclosed walkways that spiraled around a central core. Force field generators hummed with visible energy, creating shimmering barriers that could deflect anything short of a direct hit from a capital ship's main cannon. But it was the automated defense systems that truly impressed and terrified her. Plasma cannons tracked in perfect synchronization, their barrels following targeting algorithms that could hit a target moving at supersonic speeds. Sensor arrays swept the surrounding area with beams of coherent energy that could detect a mouse at a distance of 50 kilometers. And patrolling the perimeter were humanoid security robots that moved with fluid grace despite their mechanical nature. Private O'Brien identified what appeared to be a weakness in the compound's defenses. The waste processing system that Rodriguez had targeted for infiltration was indeed poorly defended, but reaching it would require crossing an open area that was constantly swept by automated sensors. However, O'Brien had noticed that the sensor sweeps followed a precise pattern, creating brief windows of opportunity that a skilled infiltrator could exploit. The team waited in position for nearly 2 hours, timing the sensor patterns and identifying the optimal moment to make their move. Sarah felt the weight of time pressing against her. Every minute they delayed was another minute that Camilla could spend learning to use the Crown's power. Intelligence reports suggested that full integration with the alien technology could take up to 72 hours, after which the Crown would be impossible to remove without killing its wearer. When the moment came, they moved like shadows across the frozen landscape. Rodriguez led the way, his body flowing between the sensor beams with inhuman precision. Thompson followed with the heavy equipment, using micro-thrusters in his suit to adjust his trajectory in the low gravity. Kim brought up the rear, her scanner sweeping for any sign that they had been detected. The entrance to the waste processing system was hidden beneath a camouflaged grating that had been designed to blend seamlessly with the natural rock formations. Thompson made quick work of the security locks using tools that could disassemble molecular bonds without creating any detectable energy signatures. The tunnel beyond was exactly as narrow as intelligence had suggested, requiring them to remove their backpacks and push them ahead as they crawled through the confined space. The journey through the tunnels was a nightmare of claustrophobia and tension. The passages were barely wide enough for a human in a combat suit, and several times Sarah had to exhale completely to squeeze through particularly tight sections. The tunnel walls were covered with a bioluminescent slime that had adapted to feed on the compound's waste products, creating an eerie blue-green glow that made the darkness feel alive. After what felt like hours but was actually only 43 minutes, they reached an access point that connected to the compound's main ventilation system. Kim's scanner showed that the area beyond was clear of human presence, but automated security systems were active throughout the building. The princess had not taken any chances with her safety, and every corridor was monitored by multiple overlapping sensor networks. The infiltration of the building itself required all of Kim's expertise with alien technology. The compound's security systems were a hybrid of human engineering and alien technology that Camilla had apparently acquired through her contacts in the black market. The systems were designed to be tamper-proof, with quantum encryption that would normally take a supercomputer years to crack. But Kim had spent the last 5 years studying captured alien technology, and she had developed techniques for interfacing with quantum systems that bordered on the supernatural. Her fingers danced across her portable hacking device, sending carefully crafted signals into the compound's network that mimicked the quantum signatures of authorized users. It was like picking a lock that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. The first security checkpoint fell after 20 minutes of intensive work. Kim's face was pale with exhaustion, when she finally nodded to Sarah, indicating that they had access to the building's lower levels. The team moved through service corridors that were barely wide enough for maintenance robots, avoiding the main passages where human guards might be patrolling. Sarah's scanner showed 17 life signs throughout the building, concentrated primarily on the middle levels where Camilla maintained her living quarters. But the strongest energy signature came from the top floor, where massive power readings suggested that alien technology was active. The Crown was definitely in the building, and someone was using it. The team made steady progress through the lower levels, but their luck ran out when they reached the main elevator shaft. A routine maintenance check by one of Camilla's guards put a human directly in their path, and there was no way to avoid contact. Rodriguez moved like lightning, stunning the guard with a neural disruptor before the man could raise an alarm, but they all knew that his absence would eventually be noticed. Thompson rigged an emergency charge to the elevator's control system, allowing them to access the shaft directly rather than using the main car. They ascended using climbing gear designed for zero-gravity operations, their magnetic boots finding purchase on the elevator's guide rails. The shaft was a vertical tunnel that seemed to stretch forever upward, lined with cables and conduits that hummed with electrical energy. Halfway to the top, they encountered their first real challenge. A security scan initiated by the building's central computer detected their presence in the shaft, and automated defense systems began activating throughout the structure. Plasma cannons emerged from concealed positions in the walls, their targeting lasers painting red dots on the team's armor. Jackson proved his worth as a sniper by taking out 3 of the automated cannons with precise shots from his specialized rifle. The weapon used crystalline ammunition that could penetrate most known armor types, and Jackson's accuracy was so perfect that he disabled the cannons without triggering their explosive fail-safes. But the noise of combat had definitely alerted the human guards, and Sarah could hear boots pounding on metal floors above them. O'Brien deployed smoke charges that filled the elevator shaft with a dense cloud of metallic particles designed to interfere with targeting sensors. The cloud also served to mask their heat signatures, buying them precious time to complete their ascent. But Sarah knew that they were now racing against time, and stealth was no longer an option. The top of the shaft opened onto the building's highest level, where Camilla had established her private study and command center. The area beyond was a maze of corridors lined with alien artifacts and human technology that had been integrated in ways that defied conventional understanding. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with energy, and Sarah's scanner detected quantum fluctuations that suggested reality itself was being manipulated in this space. Kim's equipment began malfunctioning as they approached the center of the level, where the energy readings were strongest. The alien technology was creating interference patterns that human electronics couldn't handle, forcing the team to rely on visual navigation and mechanical instruments. Sarah felt a strange tingling in her bones, as if the Crown's power was reaching out to touch every living thing in its vicinity. The corridor leading to Camilla's study was guarded by 2 of her personal bodyguards, mercenaries wearing advanced combat armor that incorporated alien defensive systems. These were not palace guards bound by honor and tradition, but killers who would shoot first and ask questions never. Rodriguez and Thompson flanked them from opposite sides, while Jackson took a position to provide covering fire from the rear. The firefight was brief but intense. The guards' alien armor absorbed the first volley of stun rounds, forcing the team to switch to lethal ammunition. Thompson's combat experience proved decisive as he used a shaped charge to create a distraction while Rodriguez closed to hand-to-hand combat range. The guards fought with desperate courage, knowing that their employer's life depended on keeping intruders away from the Crown. When the smoke cleared, both guards were down, but Private O'Brien had taken a plasma burn to her shoulder that would require medical attention. Sarah made the decision to press forward with the mission, knowing that delay would only make their situation worse. The study's door was made of the same alien material as the Crown itself, a substance that seemed to shift between different states of matter depending on the observer's perspective. Kim worked frantically to bypass the door's locking mechanism while Sarah kept watch for additional guards. The lock was unlike anything in human technology, responding to quantum fluctuations that existed on a level beyond normal space-time. Kim had to enter a meditative state, allowing her consciousness to interface directly with the alien system in ways that pushed the boundaries of human capability. The door finally opened with a sound like singing crystal, revealing the chamber beyond. Sarah stepped through the threshold and found herself in a room that defied physical laws, where walls curved in directions that shouldn't exist, and light seemed to have weight and substance. And there, floating in the center of the impossible space, was Princess Camilla wearing the crown of stars. The princess had changed since Sarah had last seen her at the palace. Her eyes glowed with an inner light that was definitely not human, and her skin had taken on a translucent quality that revealed patterns of energy flowing beneath the surface. She was no longer entirely human, and the transformation was still progressing as the crown integrated with her consciousness. When Camilla spoke, her voice echoed from multiple directions simultaneously, as if she existed in several dimensions at once. "Captain Chen, I wondered when they would send you. My mother always said you were the most loyal of her guards. But loyalty to what? To a system that keeps humanity chained to mediocrity? To leaders who are too afraid to embrace the power that could make us gods among the stars?" Sarah raised her weapon, knowing even as she did so that conventional force would be useless against someone who had begun to transcend physical reality. The real battle was just beginning, and the fate of human civilization hung in the balance. The final confrontation. Sarah stood in the impossible chamber, her weapon trained on a target that had transcended the normal rules of physics. Princess Camilla floated 3 feet above the floor, her body surrounded by a nimbus of energy that made the air itself sing with harmonic frequencies. The crown of stars had fused with her skull, its crystalline components extending tendrils of light that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "You don't understand what you're interfering with, Captain," Camilla said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in dimensions Sarah couldn't perceive. "This crown isn't just a tool of rulership, it's a key to humanity's true destiny. My mother was content to use a fraction of its power, but I've seen what we could become. I've touched the minds of the architects themselves." Sarah's tactical display flickered and died as waves of quantum interference washed over her equipment. She was operating on pure training now, relying on instincts honed through years of protecting the imperial family. "Princess, you're not thinking clearly. The crown is changing you into something that isn't human anymore. This isn't evolution, it's assimilation by an alien intelligence." Camilla laughed, and the sound created visible ripples in the air around her. "Human, what a limiting concept. We cling to our biology like children afraid to leave their mother's womb. The architects transcended flesh millions of years ago, and they left these crowns as gifts for races worthy of following their path. I've seen their memories, Sarah. I've witnessed the birth of galaxies and the death of stars. Why would I choose to remain trapped in this crude matter when I could become pure consciousness?" Rodriguez appeared at Sarah's shoulder, his own weapons useless against a target that existed partially outside normal space-time. Behind them, Thompson was setting up some kind of device while Kim worked frantically at a portable computer that sparked with alien interfaces. O'Brien maintained overwatch despite her wounded shoulder, though Sarah doubted conventional weapons would be effective against what Camilla was becoming. "Your mother never fully integrated with the crown because she understood the cost," Sarah said, trying to keep Camilla talking while her team prepared whatever plan they had devised. "She used its power to serve humanity, not to abandon it. She remained human because she knew that's what made her strong, not weak." For a moment, Camilla's expression flickered with something that might have been doubt. The energy field around her wavered, and Sarah caught a glimpse of the woman she had once been beneath the alien transformation. My mother was a coward who settled for scraps when she could have claimed the entire feast. Do you know what the architects showed me? They revealed the location of the other 11 crowns, scattered across the galaxy. With all 12 united, we could reshape reality itself. We could make humanity the dominant force in the universe, feared and respected by every alien race that has ever looked down on us as primitive children. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with Titan's frozen environment. If there were indeed 11 other crowns out there, and if Camilla had gained knowledge of their locations, then this mission had implications far beyond preventing a simple succession crisis. The princess was talking about artifacts that could give humanity godlike power, but at the cost of humanity's soul. The other races don't look down on us because we're primitive, Sarah said. They respect us because we've maintained our humanity while gaining power. We've shown that a species can advance technologically without losing its compassion and wisdom. What you're describing isn't evolution, it's spiritual suicide. Camilla's eyes blazed with alien fire as she raised her hand, and Sarah felt reality ripple around her. For a terrifying moment, she experienced existence from Camilla's perspective, seeing herself and her team as crude arrangements of matter and energy that could be reorganized with a thought. The sensation of viewing her own body as nothing more than a collection of atomic particles was so disorienting that she nearly lost consciousness. Thompson's device activated with a sound like tearing silk, and suddenly the impossible geometry of the chamber snapped back into normal three-dimensional space. Camilla cried out in pain and surprise as the energy field around her collapsed, sending her tumbling to the floor. The device was some kind of quantum anchor, forcing local space-time to conform to standard physics. "Now!" Sarah shouted, and her team moved with perfect coordination. Rodriguez deployed a neural net designed to disrupt psychic interfaces, while Kim activated a program that sent cascading shutdown signals into the Crown's quantum processors. Thompson advanced with restraining equipment specifically designed to contain subjects with enhanced abilities. But even weakened by the quantum anchor, Camilla was far from helpless. She rose from the floor like a wrathful goddess, her partially transformed body moving in ways that human anatomy couldn't support. Energy crackled between her fingers as she reached for power that existed beyond the normal electromagnetic spectrum. Jackson's shot took her in the shoulder, a crystalline round that disrupted the energy flow between the crown and her nervous system. It wasn't enough to stop her, but it bought them the seconds they needed to close the distance. Rodriguez tackled her around the waist while Thompson deployed electromagnetic shackles that locked around her wrists and ankles. The battle for the crown became a struggle of wills as much as physical force. Camilla's consciousness was partially merged with the alien artifact, and removing it while she resisted could kill her or drive her permanently insane. Kim's expertise with alien technology proved crucial as she found ways to gradually reduce the crown's integration with Camilla's neural patterns. "You're making a mistake that will haunt humanity for millennia," Camilla gasped as the crown's influence weakened. The architects didn't just leave behind tools of power, they left warnings about what's coming. There are forces in the deep void between galaxies, ancient hungers that have already consumed entire galactic clusters. We need the power of the 12 crowns to defend ourselves when they arrive. Sarah felt a moment of doubt as she looked into Camilla's eyes and saw genuine terror beneath the alien influence. What if the princess was right? What if humanity needed to sacrifice its essential nature to survive against threats too vast to imagine? But then she remembered Queen Elizabeth's words from years ago, spoken during the dark days of the Galactic War when defeat seemed inevitable. "Power without wisdom is tyranny," the Queen had said, "and wisdom without compassion is mere cunning. We must never become so afraid of our enemies that we transform ourselves into something they would find more palatable to conquer." The extraction of the crown took 3 hours of delicate work as Kim slowly disentangled its quantum matrix from Camilla's neural patterns. Thompson maintained the quantum anchor throughout the process, preventing the alien technology from reasserting its influence. Rodriguez and Jackson stood guard, while O'Brien monitored Camilla's vital signs to ensure the process didn't kill her. When the crown finally separated from her skull, Camilla collapsed into a normal human sleep, her body reverting to its original form as the alien modifications faded. The crown of stars lay on the floor beside her, its crystalline structure dark and inert, without a conscious mind to interface with its quantum processors. Sarah carefully lifted the crown, feeling its weight both physical and metaphorical. This simple object had the power to transform civilization or destroy it, depending on who wielded it and how they chose to use it. She sealed it in a containment field that would prevent anyone from accidentally triggering its systems during transport. The escape from the compound proved easier than expected. Camilla's guards, deprived of their employer's alien-enhanced leadership, were in complete disarray. Many of them fled when they realized that the impossible energies that had surrounded the building's upper levels had disappeared. The few who remained loyal put up token resistance but were easily overwhelmed by the Royal Guard's superior training and equipment. The Shadow of Earth extracted them from Titan's surface using emergency protocols that pushed the ship's engines beyond safe limits. Captain Morrison reported that Imperial forces were already moving to secure the compound and arrest any conspirators who remained. Princess Camilla would face trial for treason, but her partial integration with the Crown's consciousness would likely be considered a mitigating factor. During the journey back to Earth, Sarah spent long hours studying the Crown of Stars in its containment field. The alien artifact was beautiful in its geometric perfection, each crystal facet reflecting light in patterns that seemed to contain hidden meaning. Kim's analysis suggested that the crown contained quantum storage systems capable of holding virtually unlimited amounts of information, including the complete memories and personalities of the architects who had created it. Prince Marcus was crowned Emperor Marcus I in a ceremony that combined human tradition with alien pageantry. The crown of stars was placed upon his head with solemn reverence, its quantum processors coming alive as they interfaced with his consciousness. But unlike his sister, Marcus maintained careful mental barriers that allowed him to access the crown's power without being overwhelmed by its alien nature. The new emperor's first official act was to establish the Order of the Crown, a secret organization tasked with locating and securing the 11 other crowns that Camilla had revealed existed. Sarah was offered command of the Order, a position that would make her one of the most powerful individuals in the Empire. But the mission to find the other crowns would take her far from Earth, into regions of space where humanity had never ventured. She accepted the appointment without hesitation, knowing that the knowledge Camilla had gained from the architects could not be ignored. If there truly were ancient threats lurking in the void between galaxies, then humanity needed to be prepared. The Crown of Stars was both a gift and a responsibility, offering power beyond imagination but demanding wisdom beyond human experience. As Sarah looked out at the stars from her new command ship, she thought about the choice every civilization eventually faced. They could remain what they were and accept the limitations that came with their nature, or they could transform themselves into something greater at the cost of losing everything that made them unique. Humanity had chosen a third path, using alien technology to enhance their capabilities while maintaining their essential humanity. The Order of the Crown would seek out the remaining artifacts, but they would do so as humans serving human interests. They would gain power, but not at the cost of their souls. And if ancient threats did emerge from the void, they would face them as a united species that had learned to balance strength with compassion, technology with wisdom, and ambition with humility. The Royal Guard had completed their mission, But Sarah knew it was only the beginning of a much larger story. Somewhere among the distant stars, 11 more crowns waited to be found, and in the deep void beyond the galaxy's edge, ancient hungers stirred with the knowledge that a young species had begun to unlock the secrets left behind by their predecessors. The future of humanity would be written among the stars, with Sarah and her fellow guardians as its authors. They would face challenges that would test every aspect of human nature, but they would face them as humans, enhanced by alien technology, but never enslaved by it. The crown of stars had shown them both their potential and their peril, and they had chosen to embrace the former while guarding against the latter. The mission was complete, but the real adventure was just beginning.